thank you for being here. I'm State Senator Tracy McCreery. I have filed Senate Bill 66, which would change the age of child marriage to 18. Currently in the state of Missouri, children aged 16 and 17 can be married with parental consent. Senate Bill 66 and Senator Rick Brattin's companion bill would raise the age of marriage for all parties involved to 18. I believe raising the marriage age to 18 is imperative to the health and welfare of Missouri children, particularly young girls. Let me be very clear. Child marriage is the legalization of child rape. If a 21-year-old were to have sex with a 16-year-old, that would be second-degree statutory rape. Just because a parent gives permission for a child to be married doesn't make it not rape. And I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Senator Rick Brattin.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to actually partner with Senator McCreery to do this venture. I mean, it's been a heated topic, one that has brought a lot of division. I was on the other side years ago because I had family that were married at very young ages, many generations ago. So there was a lot of, just personal feelings knowing that family had been married at young ages. But we're not there today. And that's the realization as a father of 3 daughters. I see that we're not what we were 60, 70, 80 years ago. So I think now is the time that we've got to update the law, the antiquated aspect of child marriage, and bring it to where it needs to be adults making adult decisions. And that's what this will do. And I'm glad to have everybody here. Senator Holly Thompson Rader here as well. And just glad to be able to partner. So thank you.
Very good. And we will turn it over to some of our advocates and survivors.
All right. Well, it is time to end child marriage in Missouri because, yes, girls matter. And I really want to thank Senator McCreery, Senator Brattin, Senator Rader for leading Missouri to ending child marriage. I am Frady Reese. I am a forced marriage survivor. I was forced as a teen to marry a stranger who turned out to be violent. I was forced to have unprotected sex with him, forced to have 2 children without my consent, forced to endure his abuse from week 1 for 15 years. When I finally managed to escape, my family retaliated by shunning me. They declared me dead. And that is why I founded Unchained at Last, to end forced and child marriage in the United States. The fact is that, as you heard, a dangerous legal loophole allows one parent to enter a 16 or 17-year-old into marriage with nothing more than a notarized signature. And even if that teen is crying and begging for help, which has happened with the clients that we have worked with at Unchained, there is nothing that anyone can do to stop that marriage. That signature from the parent is a death sentence for that minor. And keep in mind that when someone is forced to marry, their own parent almost always plays a crucial role in facilitating it. So that signature on the form does nothing to protect a minor from a forced marriage. And now the fact is that this loophole became the law in 2018. Previously, the marriage age was 0 in Missouri. So yes, the 2018 law change was a good first step. But 88% of the minors who married in Missouri before 2018 were age 16 or 17. So the 2018 law failed to protect about 88% of the individuals it was supposed to protect. And that's why we still see that thousands of minors have been married recently in Missouri, including 282 married just between 2019 and 2022 under the new law. Child marriage continues to happen at an alarming rate in Missouri. We need to take that second step, make it 18, no exceptions. Marriage at age 16 or 17, even for the most mature teen, creates a nightmarish legal trap because they're not allowed to leave home. That's to escape from parents planning an unwanted wedding for them or to escape from an abusive spouse. They can't get into a domestic violence shelter. They can't retain an attorney because contracts with minors are avoidable. Perhaps most mind-bogglingly and horrifyingly, they're not even allowed to file for divorce because they're not allowed to bring a legal action in their own name. And now this is why globally all marriage before age 18 is considered forced marriage. And marriage before 18 also happens to produce such devastating lifelong repercussions for every aspect of an American girl's life: health, education, economic opportunities, physical safety, that in fact the US State Department calls marriage before 18 a human rights abuse. The simple solution, and thank you senators for proposing this, is to make the marriage age 18, no exceptions. This costs nothing. It harms no one, and it ends a human rights abuse, and it ends the legal trafficking of minors under the guise of marriage. Let's do it. Girls matter.
Hi, good morning. First off, I do want to say thank you to the senators as well for proposing this, and to Frady for all of her work that she does at Unchained at Last. It's been amazing. And Senator Rader is actually what led me to even know Unchained at Last exists. And so I feel and the Missouri Coalition to end child marriage. So I'm thankful to stand here today. So my name is Brandy Dredge. I live in St. Joseph, Missouri. I am an author, a teen mom, a child marriage, domestic violence, and sex crime survivor. And as I said, I'm so proud to stand here today with all of you. When I was 16, I met a 24-year-old man who lived with some boys that I went to high school with. And with stars in my teenage eyes, I believed that he hung the moon. 4 months later, I was pregnant. And a year after that, I was begging my mom to give parental consent for us to get married after an attorney who was representing him on some criminal theft charges suggested that if we got married before his sentencing, he could use the marriage to help show the judge that he was a changed man. He had persistent and prior felony, he's a persistent and prior felon, and so they were going to use that to show the judge that he was a changed man. And so at 17, I became his bride, and he was 25. Over the next 9 years, the statistics surrounding child marriage, such as the high likelihood of poverty, lack of further education, and enduring many forms of abuse, would ring true in my marriage, in addition to the fact that I had married a sexual predator, which was something that I struggled to see even after the sheriff who was investigating the sex crime said that the only difference between me and the other girls he had sexually abused was that he married me and I had evidence of the crime, our son's DNA. In 2007, we got divorced, and he was convicted of 2 counts of statutory rape. One of those charges was for me. When Missouri changed the law in 2018, one of the supposed safeguards was that the other party marrying a minor may not be over the age of 21, which was a step in the right direction towards protecting children. And in fact, had that law been enacted in 1997, it would have protected me. It would have stopped my mom from making a decision that she believed was the right thing for me and my family. With hindsight, I can see the manipulation, the grooming, and how the long-term abuse or the long-term effects of abuse and trauma have played out in my life and my children's life. I can look back at that starry-eyed teen, and I can say that wasn't the right thing, and that I am sorry no one protected you. It has taken me many years to finally see, say, and accept that I am a child marriage, domestic violence, and sex crime survivor. I lost my childhood, and along the way, I lost myself. I rationalized many bad things under the guise of marriage. I couldn't see them as clearly as the sheriff, the prosecutor, and the judge, which is why I am here today, to help others see what I couldn't. Times change. When we know better, we do better. And there are still children that the current marital law doesn't protect. We know this, and we can't rationalize this or ignore this. We must stand by the truth. Children are children until they reach the age of majority, which means 16 and 17-year-olds are children too. So in 2025, let's do better. Close the loopholes, lead with common sense, and protect all our children by declaring that children shouldn't be married before they reach the age of 18, no matter what. Thank you for your time.
Hello, I'm Sheena Eastfern, and I'm speaking. Thank you so much for bringing such an important issue to light, because I am a victim of child marriage. I got married 45 days after my 15th birthday. Within the first month, I was hit the first time, and within the 2 months, the first time I was raped in my marriage. I've endured mental, sexual, physical, emotional abuse for 2 years. I could not run away because I was still 16 and 17, and during my marriage, I could not get into domestic shelter. I couldn't even file a restraining order against the abuse until my brother agreed to sign for me. I could not get a divorce because at 16 and 17, I could not enter into a contract with an attorney to get a divorce. When I would run away from home, I was returned to my abuser because he was my guardian. So no matter what I tried to do, even 2 suicide attempts, running away, I could not get away from my abuser. 2 years and 4 days after my marriage, I was arrested for the accessory to his murder. I was incarcerated for 25 years, where the abuse was not allowed to be brought out in my trial. And then I was released in 2017. I think this is such an important issue because even though I was married and they said I was an adult now at 15, 16, and 17, I could never get anything done. I couldn't get my own car. I couldn't get my own bank. I was dependent on him for everything. He made me quit high school my freshman year. So I had no education, no funds, no vehicle, and everything had to be through him. So I support this issue that we don't make more victims to child marriage in Missouri, that we be a state that stands and says no more. Thank you.
Thank y'all so much. Thank you. It is, as you guys know, I'm very passionate about this. I was married at 15 to my 21-year-old boyfriend. We had lived together for, I'm Senator Holly Thompson Rader. And I taught my mother into signing the papers when I was 15 to marry him because I'd lived through horrific domestic violence for so many years, and I couldn't stand being in the house anymore, not knowing if she was going to be beaten to death in front of me or not. As with the statistics prove, within a few months, I had quit school. Within 5 months, I was pregnant. I was homeless at times. I didn't fit in with the people that were my age, with the kids anymore, but I wasn't an adult. The statistics show that when people get married before they're an adult, before 18, you have high instances of, certainly of what we just heard, of domestic violence. You have high instances, over 50% drop out of high school. I derailed my life because it was allowed. That is what happens with so many girls. The poverty statistics that you lock yourself into are incredibly high. As a Christian grandmother, Yaya, and as a mama, 80% of these marriages end up in divorce. Why would we allow a parent to sign a child up for a lifetime commitment? It doesn't make any sense. So I'm so excited to stand here and support these wonderful senators. And I have to tell you, it just makes my heart burst last year to have Senator Brattin stand up and talk about this and to hear a daddy's perspective on what they want better for their daughters. It's incredibly important in America. So many people don't know that child marriage is very legal and allowed and happening. And to have this group standing up and saying all of the reasons why, from the trafficking issues to the forced marriages to mine that was, I chose that. The statistics are horrific. We need better for our girls. So thank you all so much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we're open to take questions. If anybody has questions for this, go ahead.
Senator McCreery and Brattin and Rader, this was introduced last year, and I distinctly recall Senator Rader, when you introduced this in the House, you faced opposition from a lot of Republicans in the House saying, yeah, this is fine, but we don't believe in getting involved in marriage. How do you guys plan on getting this passed into law this year, fully knowing you might face the same roadblock?
Oh. Well, I mean, as with any legislation, you're going to have roadblocks, but, are you willing to persevere to do what's right? And that's my commitment. I'm sure that's everyone here's commitment. And to educate, kind of like myself. I mean, I had great aunts and great grandparents. They were married when they were 14 to 15, and they lived and had happy, healthy marriages. But in today's world, it's emphatically different, and it's educating and bringing people to grasp that this isn't yesteryear. And that's kind of my revelation and being a dad, and like, no way in heck am I going to allow my daughters to get married at that age, especially when they have all those hurdles and putting them in that situation. So it's educating those who are opposed, bringing them, I guess, into the light as to why we need to update this law. So.
And I will say this morning, we had a hearing in Senator Jill Carter's Senate committee. Nobody spoke in opposition. To me, that's a sign that Missourians realize that it's okay to evolve and change your opinions on this. I remember when people spoke against Senator, then Representative Rader's bill, and a lot of those folks have since changed their mind. So part of what we do as elected officials and community advocates is we try to educate people and help them figure out a way to save face. Still, we have to give people permission to advance and to change their minds on issues.
You said this morning, Senator McCreery, and if anybody has anything to add to this, I believe it was 2019, was it you when it was raised to 16, 17?
2018.
2018, thank you. So you guys felt like you won then.
Mm-hmm.
So why revisit it once again, or why not at that point did you not raise it to 18?
That's a really good question. So one of the statistics that came out this morning from both Senator Rader and Frady is when we changed the marriage age in 2018, and I was in the House at the time, I remember feeling like, yes, we got something good done, and we were all patting ourselves on the back and taking a victory lap. But then when you start looking at the statistics, we realized that only impacted about 12% of child marriages. So only 12% of child marriages in Missouri were with 14 and 15-year-olds, which means we hadn't completed the job as elected officials. So 88% of children were still getting married when they were 16 or 17. So this is where data and statistics matter. And we realized as elected officials that we still had more work to do. And, I also hope it's not lost on people that this is truly a bipartisan effort. I think sometimes in years past, something like this maybe would have been more partisan, but I think this is an important thing. It affects all Missourians.
Just going to ask about being bipartisan. We have two senators here, total opposite sides of the aisle. Why? Why come together on this issue? Why is this issue that important for bipartisanship?
Well, to me, it's a right versus wrong, not a right versus left, and I think that's why we can come together and join arms and join hands and move forward. So that's for me.
And I think Senator Rader's comments this morning have really stuck with me. So a lot of us in this press conference right now are married. I entered into marriage. It's a long-term commitment. So I've been married almost 31 years. It's hard to fathom that your parent could commit you when you're 16 or 17-year-olds, that they're going to sign you up for something that would last a lifetime. And so that to me is just, I appreciate that Senator Rader mentioned that. It's like, that is a big thing to sign a 16 or 17-year-old up for. And the statistics show that 80% of child marriages end in divorce. I don't think a lot of parents would want to sign their kids up for something like that, but yet that's what the statistics show.
Well, I'll also say, not every issue is a hate-filled, fight. We get along on so much. So I'm just glad to work with Senator McCreery. But we work together well on a lot of other issues, so this isn't it.
I guess Senator Holly Thompson-Rader, if you could just kind of say to the girls that are watching this maybe, that see this, that are hopeful for this, could you just kind of talk to them, especially since you were once in their shoes?
Hindsight's 20/20, and my mother struggled with mental illness, and so when I made this decision, I thought it was the best decision for my life. It was not even a year before I realized I didn't want to be married. I was a child. I was struggling between wanting to climb trees and cook supper for my husband or wait for him to come home when I come home. And you don't get to be a child for very long. And so take your opportunity to grow and allow our frontal cortex is not completely developed. yet. At 15, when I made that decision, I didn't have the cause and effect mentality that I had as an adult. 18 isn't a magic age for maturity. Like, you're not, the minute you turn 18, you're not all of a sudden mature, and we're not saying that. But we're saying you have to be 18 to vote. When it comes to a lifetime commitment, give yourself the time to make that commitment something that you want to sign up for a lifetime, not something that someone else thinks is a great idea. So I'm super excited. I say this one's for the girls, and those of us who think that we know everything in the world, because let me tell you, teenagers think that they know everything. But then when they get just a little bit older, they realize they're not. And then for, the parents who want better for their children. And as Senator Brattin was saying, times are different. 50 years ago, women couldn't have their name. They couldn't be the sole person on a bank account. Our lives are different. We have so much more opportunity. Take the time to have the opportunity to be the best form of you that you can be. So.
I'd like to say, as a dad, if he really truly loves you, then he'll wait and he'll respect the capability for you to become an adult and do the things that are necessary for you to become a woman, if he really loves you. But just caution yourself. So, and that's why we need to do this, to ensure that we're able to put those buffers in there.
Very good. Thank you so much for covering this.